Before we begin this tale, let me provide some important cultural background. This story is deeply rooted in Japanese rural traditions and folklore. In Japan, there's a strong belief in supernatural entities that inhabit the natural world, particularly in rural areas where ancient traditions still hold sway. The concept of Higyou-sama, mentioned in this story, refers to cursed or supernatural chickens in Japanese folklore. Creatures that are born at spiritually significant times and possess otherworldly powers. Rural Japanese communities have long held beliefs about the timing of birth and death, with midnight and noon being considered particularly ominous times when the veil between worlds is thin. The practice of culling eggs that hatch at these times was a real tradition in some Japanese farming communities, born from generations of superstitious beliefs about supernatural contamination and possession. Now, let us begin our tale. My mother's family used to run a chicken farm in Shimane Prefecture, though it's long since closed down. Every summer vacation, my mother, older sister Emma, younger brother David, and I would return to visit my grandparents. My father always stayed home because he couldn't get time off work. My mother's hometown was in Oki District, Shimane Prefecture. To put it nicely, it was a place where Japan's pristine natural landscape spread out before you. To put it bluntly, it was the countryside. We would stay there for about a week, enjoying ourselves while being spoiled by Grandpa and Grandma. Being in the countryside, both Grandpa and Grandma woke up incredibly early and went to bed incredibly early. They would get up around 4 a.m., start feeding the chickens before the roosters first crow, then continue with cleaning out droppings, collecting eggs, checking the incubators, and tending to the vegetable garden. By 5 p.m. they would finish their work and have dinner, and by 7 p.m. they would start dozing off with a beer in hand. Naturally, we children would get into our futons around 8 p.m., but we couldn't possibly fall asleep that early. Once we started thinking about what happened at the river that day or what we would do tomorrow, our minds would become completely alert, and we couldn't sleep. In the middle of the night, as I stared absently at the dark ceiling beams, I heard the sound of sliding doors opening from the 6 tatami room next to our living room, where Grandpa and Grandma slept. Someone walked creakily down the hallway, opened the front door, and went outside. I remained in a half-awake, half-asleep daze when the grandfather clock chimed 12 times. Bong, 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 bong. Ah, it's already that time, I thought. Then, about 5 minutes later, I heard the front door open, someone taking off their sandals, walking creakily down the hallway again, and entering the 6 tatami room. Either Grandpa or Grandma must have gone to check on the chickens or the vegetable garden. While I was imagining various possibilities, I must have fallen asleep, because when I came to, it was morning and everyone was already eating breakfast. Since this happened while I was in a half-awake state, I thought it might have been a dream, but that night, when I couldn't sleep again, the same thing happened. Someone went outside in the middle of the night and returned after a while. The next day, and the day after that, it seemed like this someone went out every night at 11:30 and returned around 12. When I asked Emma and David during the day, neither of them seemed to have noticed anything. I was at an age where I was curious about everything adults did. I wanted to see who was doing what. On the 5th day, I tried not to make too much noise during the day to conserve my energy, and decided to stay awake and follow this mysterious person. Even though I had been troubled by insomnia every night, now that I was trying to stay awake, I naturally became sleepy. I almost overslept, but somehow managed to wake up when I sensed that someone's presence. After waiting for the presence to leave through the front door, I also went to the entrance, put on sandals and went outside. I saw Grandpa entering the hatchery, which was located about 50 meters away from the main house. The hatchery was a building dedicated to incubating chicken eggs in incubators and raising the newly hatched chicks to a certain size. It should probably have been called an incubation facility, but Grandpa called it the hatchery. When I quietly followed Grandpa inside, I found that the lights weren't on. The only source of light was the dim red glow leaking from heat lamps inside the incubators. In this dim, reddish darkness, like being inside a kotatsu, Grandpa was peering into an incubator with an extremely serious expression. He took out about 3 eggs from among the many eggs, turned his face away from them, and suddenly smashed them into a tin garbage can. I was so startled that I shouted loudly, "What are you doing?" Grandpa was even more startled than I was. looking so shocked that I worried he might collapse. But when he realized it was me, he seemed relieved. All the strength seemed to drain from his body as he said with a wry smile, "Oh, it's just you, kiddo. Don't startle me like that." When I asked again, "What are you doing?" Grandpa replied, "I'm removing the bad ones," and began peering into the incubator again. I had never heard of culling chicks before they hatched, so I asked, "Are there bad chicks?" Grandpa said, "Yes, if we don't remove them, terrible things will happen," and took out another egg from the incubator. I tried to get a good look at the egg by peering closer, but Grandpa hurriedly said, "Don't look at this, it'll hurt your eyes," and immediately smashed the egg into the tin garbage can. The egg I saw had a large crack in it, probably from the chick pecking from inside, and looked like it was about to hatch soon. I could easily imagine the splattered mess inside the garbage can, and though I didn't particularly want to see it, Grandpa quickly put the lid on to hide it from my view. At that moment, I noticed what looked like white paper stuck to the garbage can lid. While I was wondering what it was, Grandpa looked at his wristwatch and said, "It's past midnight, so we're done for today. Come on, kiddo. Let's go home and sleep." He immediately tried to leave the hatchery. I didn't want to be left alone in such a creepy place in the middle of the night, so I hurriedly left the hatchery too. As I was leaving, I thought I saw something that looked like toys next to the hatchery door, but I was already sleepy and getting a bit scared, so I decided to look the next day. I went back to the main house with Grandpa and slept in his futon that night. The next day, during the morning, I played catch insects with David. When we returned for an early lunch, I felt something was different. That's right, Grandpa was there too. When I thought about it, I had no memory of ever eating lunch with Grandpa before. His figure would always disappear around 11:30 in the morning. That day, he had gone out early in the morning for a village meeting, came home completely drunk around 11 a.m., and sat at the dining table with us. Grandpa was eating white rice with cold barley tea and pickles, making it into ochazuke, but he collapsed face first onto the table and fell asleep partway through. We thought it would be bad to wake him, so we quietly finished our meal and went outside to play. Once outside, I remembered the toy-like things I had glimpsed at the hatchery the night before, and decided to go look at them with David. They weren't toys. There was a hand mirror with its surface painted vermilion red with something like paint, a small clay cow figurine, cheap-looking plastic artificial flowers. Last night, their colorful appearance had made them look like toys in the darkness. However, I had no idea what they were used for. I noticed the garbage can where Grandpa had been throwing away eggs the night before. Last night, it had been too dark to see clearly, but in the bright light, I could see that the lid of the garbage can was covered with old-looking paper with something written in old-style, illegible cursive characters. One's being born. Wait, what? David, who had been looking into the incubator, seemed to have found an egg that was hatching. I wanted to see the newborn chick, so I opened the incubator door, and there was a chick. However, this chick was somehow different from the other chicks. Looking closely, unlike the other chicks, it wasn't shivering at all. It wasn't chirping at all. And its eyes, only its eyes, were human. The thing fell with a thud from the incubator shelf to the dirt floor, then walked away steadily without bobbing its head. I was frozen by its strangeness and couldn't move. When the thing left the hatchery and walked westward until I could no longer see it, the paralysis seemed to lift and I could finally move again. When I looked at David, he was drooling heavily. His eyes weren't looking at anything, and no matter how much I called to him, he didn't respond at all. As I kept calling David's name loudly, Grandpa and Grandma came running in, out of breath. "Hey, did you see it?" I was frightened by Grandpa's expression and answered, "I didn't see anything." Grandpa looked into my eyes, and asked with a scary look, "You saw it, didn't you? Which way did it go?" "That way," I said, pointing westward. Then Grandpa grabbed the clay cow figurine, and artificial flowers that were placed next to the entrance door, and ran in the direction I had pointed. Grandma kept calling David's name, but David just kept drooling and showed no response whatsoever. He looked into Higyou-sama's eyes. Grandma said sadly, "Won't he get better?" Sensing something serious in David's condition and Grandma's expression, despite my young age, I asked this question. "Well, kiddo, get me that red painted mirror over there." When I handed her the hand mirror with its surface painted vermilion red, Grandma said, "Don't look. Go to your mother," and sent me out of the hatchery. I went to where Mother and Emma were, but I couldn't figure out what to tell Mother about what had happened, so I just clung to her without saying anything. Then David and Grandma returned. When I saw David walking back, I felt relieved, thinking, nothing was wrong after all, thank goodness. But I sensed something different about David. When I talked to him, he was definitely David. He remembered going to the hatchery with me, and what happened yesterday and the day before. But somehow something was different. Mother must have sensed something about David too. She asked Grandma, "Mother, you don't mean?" Grandma just nodded sadly. I remember Mother hugging David and crying loudly. David just looked puzzled. Emma was looking at David with a creeped out expression, but when she saw Mother crying, she started crying too. After a while, Grandpa returned. "No good, I didn't make it in time." He said this and shook his head sadly. "Old woman, I don't know who it will be, but it'll be within 2 or 3 days at the latest. Take out the morning clothes and air them out." Then Grandpa hugged David and said, "I'm sorry," because Grandpa was sleeping. "This happened, I'm truly sorry." Grandpa cried tears and apologized. David was saying things like, "What, Grandpa? You're hurting me." That voice, those gestures. It was certainly David, but still, that thing was not David. Later, Grandpa told me, chicks born at the sun's highest point and the night's deepest point have a role to play. That's why they must be killed. "Do chicks born at night also become Higyou-sama?" I asked. "Who told you?" Grandma said that, did she? "No, that's different. What's born at night becomes something much more frightening." Saying this, Grandpa looked toward the hatchery with a disturbed expression. This is where the story from that time ends. Later, when I was in high school, I had a classmate whose family also ran a chicken farm. When I asked him about Higyou-sama, he didn't seem to know what I was talking about at first. But when I told him about what happened that summer, he said, "You mean Iwashi-dori, the speaking chicken." According to him, nowadays automation has advanced, and sensors and timers automatically remove eggs that are about to hatch at 12 noon and 12 midnight. I still return to Shimane every year. David is doing well as an elementary school teacher. I can no longer remember what my previous brother was like, so it's fine now. After living as a family for 20 years since then, he's completely family now. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder, what happened to the real David, and what terrible thing was prevented by those midnight visits to the hatchery? Some questions are better left unanswered.